Oh, it's only 5 p.m. Start construction now. Shut up! Welcome back to the Spectral Frame. Today, we're talking about the new sci-fi horror comedy film Companion, starring Sophie Thatcher and Jack Quaid, who himself might have been made in a lab. How do you look like both of your parents that much? I'm onto you.
There have been two moments in my life when I was happiest. The first was the day I met Josh.
I'm Josh.
I'm Iris. And the second, the day I killed him. I didn't mean to.
Iris, wake up.
Shut her down already.
What is she talking about, Josh?
Companion is the story of two young lovers, Josh and Iris, who head deep into the countryside to hang out with Josh's friends for the weekend at his secluded mansion. What could go wrong? This trip goes off the rails when Iris almost immediately is pulled into this sinister plot and then discovers she's not just Josh's girlfriend. She's actually a robot companion. She had no idea.
The days of you controlling me are over.
I was super excited to check out Companion when it was first announced as the follow-up film for director Zach Cregger, who first blew up on the scene with Barbarian in 2022. Love that movie. Cregger decided to produce this movie instead and hand off directing duties to first-time director Drew Hancock, which I think was a good idea. Hancock did a fantastic job with this film. And you know me, I like to go into all these movies as cold as possible, so I didn't really know much about what was going on. This movie paid off because of it. I had a blast with this movie, and I think everybody in my theater did too. It's hard for me to really get into a lot of detail without spoiling things, so I'll let you guys go see it. Just know that I won't be getting into super nitty-gritty detail with all of my points.
She's tied up inside, so she's not going anywhere.
Eli, Iris. Shh, baby, you're on the phone.
First thing on my likes for Companion is the tone of the movie. I think we're set up pretty early in the movie that this film has a good sense of humor. It never forgot about the comedy, and it never forgot about the scares, but mingling those two didn't affect the other, if that makes sense. Like in some movies, comedy beats can undermine some horror moments, but here, those comedy moments pushed the horror when that was necessary and totally fell off when it wasn't necessary. The comedy itself is also a mix of like witty lines and writing and also decent physical humor. Not a ton of it, it's not slapstick, Larry Moe and curly Three Stooges stuff, but the little moments we do get of it, it really hits. The comedy writing here weasels its way into some of these really tense moments that make you laugh while you're also still gripping your seat. I think it's a really great achievement that is definitely hard to pull off. Overall, the way the tone is handled throughout Companion just allows this movie to be really fun. I think it'll have you leaving the theater with a smile on your face.
Just relax. Remember to smile and act happy.
Next on my list of likes is the cast. They definitely know what movie they're in. Like I said at the top, we have Jack Quaid and Sophie Thatcher, but we also have Megan Surrey, Lucas Gage, and Harvey Guillen. Not only does everybody play well together as friends, but you also get a sense of like the underlying tensions between everybody through the performance. Like the subtle looks and the tiny jabs, and the little laughs, just, you know, all those things that your friends kind of do sometimes when they're being assholes. But I do have to add that Jack Quaid and Sophie Thatcher are just perfect for this movie. I can't imagine better casting. I think a perfect comparison for Jack Quaid is his character in Scream 5, or... It's like his classic nice guy character with a touch of that like underlying darkness. He plays it so well. If Jack Quaid turned out to be like a serial killer in real life or something, I would believe it and probably be a victim. Sophie Thatcher, on the other hand, brings a deep intensity to this role that it definitely needed. Without this performance, I think this movie would have fallen flat across the board. She's like the tent pole of this movie. She's the backbone. Is this offensive, comparing women to things? I'm not trying to be. Cut that. Sophie Thatcher plays Iris, the companion robot, and her story is like the emotional thread throughout this movie. It's her story, it's her arc. This is an easy role to up. She brings so much human depth and emotion to her character, who is just discovering she's not a real person. All her thoughts and memories have been implanted in her, and her relationship has been a lie. We as an audience really feel her find her strength and like take back her agency. I also saw this interview with director Drew Hancock, who talks about how Sophie Thatcher can just like cry on command and like just cry with one eye or the other and just drop a single tear or not. Like that's an insane level of control over your own bodily function. functions. I don't have that. Sometimes I just start crying, both eyes, and a lot in public.
This was not part of the plan.
I didn't mean to.
Next on my list of likes for Companion is the plot. There's a handful of twists and turns in this movie that definitely up the fun factor while you're watching, and it also allows you as an audience to place yourself there. We've all been on weird, uncomfortable weekend trips with our friends, and I don't want to comment on mine, the investigation's still ongoing. And while this movie's twists didn't offer a lot of surprises necessarily, I do think they work because the characters are so solid and the direction is done in such a way that keeps everything interesting. And last on my list of likes is the VFX. Like I said, Iris is a robot, but she doesn't go like full T-1000 and like rip off her skin to reveal her big metal endoskeleton. It's more subtle than that. We get a sequence that they show in the trailer where she gains control over her own functions, so we see her change her voice and her eye color and things like that, and it's really fun. And while the effects had the ability to kind of overdo this robot thing, I think they were smart to keep it subtle and to keep it more human feeling. That way we can attach to Iris's more human-like qualities and follow her story better. Although I do think it would be cool if she would have ripped off all her skin and gone full T-1000. Give her an Arnold Schwarzenegger voice patch. Try f***ing me now. Nah. And while this movie was generally fun, I do have a few dislikes that we gotta get into.
Did you jailbreak your sex bot?
My first dislike of Companion is that the horror was kinda standard. Minor spoiler warning, but with a fun and unique premise such as this one, I think there was so much opportunity for like really creative and novel horror moments, and we didn't really get a lot of that. We have a sex robot on the loose, right? But what we're reduced to is really just like the standard stabbing and shooting and things like that. I just think there was a lot of opportunity here that they kind of missed out on. My next dislike for this movie is another opportunity not taken situation, the theme. Companion is essentially the story of a woman finding herself and her agency outside of a relationship. I just don't think this movie explored that theme even when it had tons of opportunities to organically do so. I'm not saying this movie should be preaching to us, but it had a chance to take its point and just make it that much deeper. I think it would have stuck with us more as an audience. And by doing that, I don't think we would have lost any of the fun factor or the comedic elements of this movie. Without that thematic depth, I think this movie just kind of feels like a long Black Mirror episode, but without any teeth.
The days of you controlling me are over.
And last on my dislikes list is the ending. Not generally how it ends, but more specifically the big climax scene and how it pays off. Now, I'm not going to get into any spoilers, but when the movie starts, it tells us exactly how it's going to end, and we see all these crazy wild things happen throughout the runtime, so when we get to that big climax and that big payoff, the way it does happen just feels kind of like a letdown, feels a little uninspired compared to what we saw before. Again, I don't think it's bad, it's just not nearly as satisfying as I think it should have been. But that's just what I think, and I'm not the only asshole around here who has some opinions, so let's check out IMDb and see what those people have to say. We're gonna start with the 10 stars and work our way down to the 1 stars.
Are you breaking up with me?
It's not you. It's me.
As of this recording, Companion has a 7.4 on IMDb, and I would say that's pretty appropriate. I think I'd put this closer to a higher 6, lower 7, but, you know. Alright, first we got a 10 out of 10 review from Unique Particle. Crisp, smooth writing/dialogue throughout that is enriching and refreshing. It's impressive how much Sophie Thatcher has blossomed since Yellow Jacket's series, and she's around 24 years old. She's exceptional in anything I've seen. I would give her an award myself if I could. Yeah, just like I said, I think she's fantastic in this movie, and I didn't realize she's 24 years old. I don't know if that's true or not necessarily, but wow, she has a really long and exciting career ahead of her, and this definitely shows that. Besides that, this is basically a romantic horror film version of Black Mirror, and every scene is well crafted like fine wine. Yes, this is exactly what I was saying. It feels like a Black Mirror episode. I just don't think it has the depth that a lot of them do, but I could see it being up there with some of the lesser Black Mirror episodes, you know. Alright, we have another 10-star review from Jared25331. Companion is a new thriller movie from the creator of Barbarian, and it is easily the best movie of 2025 right now. I don't know about that. The movie starts off as something, but then goes in a direction that changes everything. It also goes without saying that the performances from the cast are awesome, especially Jack Quaid and Sophie Thatcher. Yes, of course. The movie has a great sense of dark humor, and I was smiling at them. I also appreciate how this movie isn't trying to get any message across to the audience, it is simply trying to entertain you. See, I think that's a fine counterpoint to what I was saying earlier about my dislikes thematically. I think this movie is trying to say something. All movies are trying to say something to some degree. I just wish this would have gone into it more. People like this reviewer just want to sit back and be entertained and enjoy it on a surface level, and that's fine too. Everybody can enjoy their entertainment however they want. It's just, I wanted something more for this because I think it really could have given it to us in a really cool way, but valid for sure. Alright, this has never happened before. There's only 2 one-star user reviews right now on IMDb for Companion, so I gotta read them both and strap in. Who knows what we're gonna get. Alright, our first one-star review is from Now I Shop. As soon as the words "kill you" appeared in the lyrics, reverse that last word, were stated that was time for us to leave. Oh boy. Why are there so many horror films in the world these days? I think it's time to cancel the Cineworld membership and go back to something like Disney. At least that was kind of a sentence, that last one, so I don't know what Cineworld is, so let me know in the comments if you know what that is, but this person didn't like it and wanted to walk out. Let's see what else they got. To make use of the required characters, are these time to add that? Yes, it was quite funny when the oranges fell on the floor in the beginning scene, and that was all I could really remember. So thank you very much in the world. It's been a joy, it's been a pleasure, and it's time to go thank you. Goodbye. What I got out of that was that they didn't like the characters, and they remember the opening scene, and the rest they hated. I guess we'll never really know. Next. Lastly, we have a 1-star review from Annuity. The premise of this film had potential, but as is often the case, Hollywood took an interesting premise and destroyed it. This film is Hollywood filth from beginning to end. Well, maybe beginning to halfway, because that's about when I walked out. I want to know what this person means by filth, because if they're talking about the horror stuff, then no, it's kind of tame in that manner. But if they're talking about some of the wacky, weird stuff, it's also kind of tame in that manner. This is kind of middle of the road in that way, so I don't see how this could be very polarizing. I can count on one hand the number of films I've walked out on in my life. I expect the critics to love something like this, but I'm deeply disappointed that users gave this as good of a rating as they did. Such a sad commentary on the collective moral compass of our society. So I guess they have a problem with this in the moral sense? I guess they want more rights for robots. They want more rights for AI. They don't want sex robots. I'm a little confused. There's no real detail in here, so yeah, we get what we get with the only 1-star reviews on this movie, so that should tell you something. So that was Companion. Would I recommend it? Yeah, I think I would. I think general audiences are really going to enjoy this if you want a little horror and some comedic stuff in there, but also some wacky fun characters and a pretty interesting ride throughout. You got it here. Will this make some top 10 best of lists at the end of the year? No, but it's definitely not going to make worst of lists at the end of the year, so I think you're pretty safe with this one. It's a fun time, although it definitely won't stick with me for too much longer. But if you've learned anything from this review, I hope it's to go out into the world, be kind to each other, but be especially kind to your sex robots. So if you'll excuse me, there's a Roomba who desperately needs my attention. And apologies, and apologies. So what'd you think of Companion? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you fall somewhere in the middle? Let me know in the comments. But if you have stuck around this long, thank you so much. I would love a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. It's free, and seriously, do not f*** your vacuum. It hurts so bad, dude. I'm a mess down there.